Hello, students. Today we're going to continue working on our two-story house, but we are going to advance our skills and start modeling families. So when I say families, it means a door that when you click on it, you can change the type and make it perhaps instead of a 72, we can make it a 68 by 80. And that's just by changing a simple drop down. So we're going to do that by designing our own profiles. So we'll start with a standard sort of cove detail. This could also be something more complicated like a cornice. Um, it's pretty ubiquitous with base plates. You all already uh, know that there's probably cornices available to you. We're going to look at some sweeping techniques and reveal techniques. And then we will also cover how to quickly make a rendered floor plan with a color legend, and then how to set up a walkthrough for an export of a video. So first things first, we are going to start to design this family. Go to File, New, and we don't want a project, we want a family. So click Family. These are defaults, and they're pretty useful. So we will go down to Profile Hosted. It's a little confusing, but this is the one we want, and then we hit Open. So the hosting portion of this is about forming a relationship to what you're going to draw and an element that will serve as a host for that. So for example, the host face, in this case, pretty obviously is a wall because we're going to draw a simple wall detail that would be swept around the whole room. So this is the wall face in short. Now the next key element is that everything is sort of designed off these reference planes, and that's to allow parametric relationships. And hopefully you understand what that means as we move forward, but it's back to the door example. If we wanted to simply make this instead of 80 inches, 78 inches, we could quickly click it in a drop down, or we could simply create a new family style that would allow it to be changed very quickly. So it's about doing this sort of dirty work at the beginning so that it helps us in the future. So I'm just going to get started on a cove. If you want to generate new reference planes, you can just go ahead and right click over an existing one and say create similar. Then you have this option of drawing it, which I find to be problematic, but pick lines is like good because you can just offset, right? So let's say I'm going to draw this pretty big 12-inch, oops, not the right way, 12-inch detail, which is quite large. So as you can see, if I'm hovering on one side or the other, the reference plane will be created on that side. Let's click here. Same with this one. We can do it below or above. We'll just do it above for now. I'll click here. So the next thing we want to do is create dimensional relationships between these points. So I'm clicking into the measure, align dimension. I'm making sure align dimension is clicked on. And I am simply clicking from here to here. So this is an important concept with creating families, is that there are these things called strong reference planes, and then these are weak. And the strong basically is the hierarchy. This will break, this will not break in the sort of system. This is the thing that will flex. So the reason I created my dimension from this plane to this plane is so that it always moves out in this way. So this is just something to be mindful of. It is important that you first select the strong reference plane. So this is the one at the insertion point, and then the one that you offset. So the next thing that's interesting about these dimensions is that they aren't just for us to understand what the dimension actually is. You can actually use them to set up the parameter and then eventually equations. So right now I've clicked on my dimension, modify dimensions, and the label says none and there's nothing to search. So we're going to start a new label by just clicking the new property window over here. We want it to be a family parameter. The parameter data, so this is the name. So what is the name of this parametric dimension? I'm going to call it the height. And just so you know, it does matter that you spell correctly and that you use appropriate calculation or capitalization, because we will actually use this to generate equations in the future. So there you go. Height, type. Instance is not what we want right now. Type is the button you want to click and hit OK. So that now says height 1 is to 0. We can do the same thing for this. Again, we need to start a new one. We will call this depth and then hit OK. So now we've created a depth and a height. Let's go ahead and start drawing a cove. So that can be in the Create tab with lines. I'm just going to, using both the edges and then following along, I drew a 2-inch line and then followed along this reference plane. Now I'll come back and create an arc in between. Okay, so this is our cove. So right now I will just quickly show you how the sort of dimensioning can work. So we have some kind of a relationship. We have a depth, we have a height. So let's click over here under properties into family types. When you click here, you see our labels, depth and height. You see the values, which is great. And then there is this formula. So these formulas are often if-then statements, or they are things that keep things equal. So for example, if I say the depth is always equal to the height then if I made this 3 feet and hit out, it would also change that. But as you can imagine, we can get much more advanced than just equal. What we can say are if statements. So we can say if, and then parentheses, the height is less than 1 foot, then the depth will equal 6 inches, and otherwise it will equal 24 inches. Close parentheses. Please note that I didn't spend a lot of time entering the zeros and everything. It will all eventually auto correct that for you. Let's pull this over and see if we can get a better view. Okay. So now let's see. If the height is less than 1 foot, it will be 6 inches. So if the height is 6 inches, then it will be 6 inches. If the height is 14 inches, it will be 2 feet. So this is the sort of equation that allows things like relationships to take place. But let's just cancel that really quickly. There is one more sort of important thing to dimension, which is these little guys. If you want to, you can go ahead back to create, aligned from here to there, and here to there. It doesn't exactly snap, but it will highlight to the blue edge when you've gotten there. So there is a lock feature. You can lock specific dimensions. That means even if this became 8 feet by 8 feet, this would always be 2 inches. You know, in proportionally, that's not probably what you want. But the good thing is that you can actually grab both of these and give them the same label. So I can click here and here. Wait, one at a time. And create a new one that's called the reveal. Hit OK. And I can also make this the reveal. So those will forever have the same relationship as one another. Again, going into this properties, I think we will always want the depth and the height to be the same. So we'll say the height will always equal the depth, and then the reveal if the height is greater than 16 inches, it will be 3 inches. Otherwise, it will be 2 inches. Click out. If this was an incorrect formula, it would say that the information was incorrect. Okay, so that looks pretty good. I can now say this is going to be 24 inches. And now that changes. The reveal is still 2 inches. If I am 8 inches, oops, 8, it's now 3, counterintuitive, but whatever. Let's just say this is what we wanted. We can hit apply, and now you can see that has changed. Go back to 16, hit apply. Oh, 16 feet. Nice. Okay, we don't want to do that. 16 inches. Apply. Perfect. Let's just hit OK. All right, so now we have this. We have set up the family relationships. Now let's go ahead and do a new type for this family. I am not sure. File, save, that I saved it as anything. Something terrible like family 2. So we'll call this Cove Design. Cove 1. And then you can, by the way, click over to options and then decrease your file save options to 1. 3 is pretty good. That's what I have usually for my projects. Some of you might notice that you have a lot of files that are being saved. You can reduce that number here. 1 is certainly enough for families. Then hit save. We can go here. Save this as Cove 16-inch. Hit OK. We can save this one as Cove 12 inches. Okay. And now we've created our own family. Oh, I did it again. Definitely do not want to do this. Okay, let's go back. Let's see what Cove 16. Okay. So now let's go ahead and load into the project. So there's lots of good ways to create sweeps. One pretty standard way is to modify your structure. So you can select a wall and come over here to edit type and then edit the structure. Once you click edit the structure, you might actually have something that looks like this. So you need to do 2 things to add these sweeps and reveals. What you need to do is click the preview button over. And again, you might have something that looks like this. In order to add the sweeps and reveals, you must have it in section mode. So click section. And now just select sweeps. You can load a profile. So here's all the profiles that maybe are default. I think I saved mine on the desktop. Cove 1, open. Right, because I already loaded it. And then you can just hit add. And it will pop up automatically. Let's see if this 16-inch one works out. I can't really be for sure that it's not 16 feet, but we will see. And then the distance, let's just say it's like 4 feet off the ground. I will show you what flip means in a little bit. You can go ahead and hit apply. If you didn't like that it was on that side, you can switch it to interior, hit apply. You can flip it, apply. You can add as many as you want. So we'll go ahead and do the 12-inch one and hit apply, see what happens. Beautiful. Okay, so let's go back and just use this one. We can do that one on the interior as well. We can do it at 3 feet. Okay. Wait, let's go apply. Okay. And then, I mean, we can just move it up a little bit. very sensitive. So you do something cute like that. And then once you're done, you will hit OK. And OK. And OK again. Oh my gosh, it got really ginormous. So let's see what I did in here. The best way you can sort of see what's going on is to add an elevation. So head over to your View tab, grab the elevation. You can just pull it in here. It will automatically point, but once you've dropped one, it's going to allow you to select multiple ones. Okay, so now we have these two selected. Let's go have a look at what is happening. If I scroll down to my elevations, they have already generated over here, so let's click. Oh my gosh, that's amazing. Just exactly what I wanted. I imagine this could be like display space or something. Same thing for this one. Oh, because the roof is weird. Okay. So that's the step one to sort of sweeps. So the next thing we are going to look at is how to do rooms like this, room tags, and then to use a color plan to generate it. So the first thing you want to do, yes. The first thing you want to do is sort of generate your rooms. You can always go to the architecture tab and find your room button. There's room separator, tag room. So let's do room. You see this X that is generating. You click and you say, okay, that's my room. But I know that this isn't really my room. What I intended for my room to be is here is, let's say, the kitchen, and then here is the living area. What you want to do is add a room separator. So just click right under room to room separator. And just draw a line. And now room 3 is much more agreeable. So it's important to note that all the sort of stuff that you want to edit will be on these X's, not here. So if you notice all the properties available when you're hovered over the X versus just the tag. So this is really just content. Okay, so let's do the other room. I'm okay with that. And you will also see this place room automatically. Okay, so that's pretty quick. Again, this room is not really what I wanted it to be, so I'm going to go ahead and do, a room separator to here. And the reason like room separators even kind of exist is to, you know, sometimes help with calculations. Let's just say this is totally not working, and we'll do one more right there. Okay, wonderful. Okay, so the whole purpose for us for that is to try and generate a colored floor plan. That is done. in annotate under color fill. So once you click on the color fill legend, you will be asked to sort of drag something in. And then it will ask you, what are you organizing? So let's just see what spaces does. And click OK. Doesn't do anything. Let's just delete this again. Let's edit the scheme. I don't know what this means. There's just nothing here. So at a company you work at, you might have these schemes already developed. But since you don't have that here, we need to develop it. So the first thing, since we have rooms already designated, we can use these rooms to generate this. So that means that everything labeled room will be this really whatever color. Let's definitely jazz this up a little bit. Okay, great. Well, let's say that we want to add another one. And let's say it's going to be called hallway. And we want that one to be pink. Okay, so let's just say, and you can use these to generate this. But let's say apply for now. And click OK. Everything's blue because everything is still labeled room. But for example, I do know this is a hallway. So I'm going to click on the X and come over here to name and call it hallway. Now it's pink, and now this is updated to that. You can do kitchen, living room, everything, but this is how you would generate that color plan. So if you look over to your floor plans in your drawings, you will now see that it is colored, beautiful, nice legend there. Let's go back to the second floor. Edit this scheme one more time. And you can continue to add things. You can change the way that these are all labeled, but this is probably the best way that we can use it for this project. Okay. So the last thing we're going to do is generate a walkthrough very quickly. And the easiest way to sort of do that is to tile a bunch of views, because it kind of can become, okay, sure, can become insane with the camera navigating. So let's open a floor and the like an elevation, just so we can see where the camera is. And we can just tile these views. So that is under the View tab, Tile View. Now it's all here. So what I'm going to do now is go to 3D View and create a walkthrough. Once that happens, I will be able to start clicking. And you click, 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 click. So I'm just going to say that that's the thing. That's it. That's the baby. Ooh, save the project. My goodness. I already know that this isn't going to work. For example, this is the camera, this little part of the triangle, and this is what we're looking at. So we don't really want to look at that. That's not helpful. We want to look at what we designed. So we need to edit this walkthrough. So click Edit Walkthrough. Let's go to our previous keyframe. So this is a way that you can navigate and quickly correct this using this keyframe thing. So you can adjust this way, which is the lens depth. Most of you will just need to adjust this target. Because we did it in the plan view, this will all be at the same height. And we'll talk a little bit about that. So previous keyframe, I'm just going to make all the keyframes look at the building. I mean, this one could be a big reveal, so let's just leave that there. I'm going to click over here and open the walkthrough. So again, I got my plan, my elevation. Elevation's pretty good for now. It was all at the exact same level. If you wanted, you can, move things, but let's just go ahead and go all the way back and hit play. So over here, we'll preview, your walkthrough. This is a good lesson. So whatever window you're clicked in is where the walkthrough will animate. So because I was clicked in the west view, it is now animating it in the west view, which is not helpful to me. It's essentially showing me where the camera is moving. So in order to see the actual walkthrough, this happens a lot. It always is like, are you done? No, I'm not done. Just make sure you're clicked on the right view and then hit play. Woo! So pretty. Very nice. So now, yes, we have done our thing. File, export, images and animations, walkthrough. If you add, you can do all your frames, or if you didn't like the end or something, or if this was a mistake, you can specify the range. The frames, all these frames total 20 seconds. You can change the visual style right here. I assume that this will increase a whole lot of your time doing it, but shaded with edges, cool. Dimensions, these are pretty low resolution, but this is still perfect. Include a time and date stamp. No, I don't ever want to ever do that because who needs that? It's not useful to me. So let's hit okay. Walk through. Okay. And now it's going through that. So for today's lesson, we learned about creating our own families that are parametric and that can then become reveals and sweeps. We developed a color plan using room tags, and now we are generating a walkthrough movie. So that's what we will have due for next week.